Today, we get to make one of my favorite Latin American coffees. It comes specifically from Cuba, and this coffee is called the Café Cubano. It's a very simple, sweet, and strong coffee, and I'm really excited because I actually get to avoid using my espresso machine today entirely, and we will be opting for one of the world's oldest espresso machines, one of the world's most tried and true. You've seen it everywhere in movies and TV, the mocha pot. Simple, elegant, and wonderful. The great thing about this is this comes from Italy. When Italy was in Cuba, for various reasons, the Cubans kind of adapted the style of coffee that was being made a little bit, and the mocha pot has been around for centuries at this point. And they recognized the opportunity to use Cuban coffee mixed with sugar and make something just stupendous. First and foremost is the Cuban coffee. I always grind my own beans unless I'm making one of these. You have to use Café Bustelo, the best Cuban coffee for any Cuban drink you're going to be making. It is bold, round, earthy. You lose a lot of the fruity notes that I'm usually a big fan of, but that trade-off is so worth it for what you get out of this coffee here. Very nutty profiles, which I really love. The balance of that nutty profile with the second ingredient. Now, most people will use just a standard white granulated sugar. That being said, you will get a better espuma, which is what we're going to be making, the part of the coffee that is the toughest aspects. And you get a sweeter, nuttier flavor out of using brown sugar because it has molasses in it compared to granulated sugar having just sugar cane in it. And that's it, no other aspect to it. So what we're gonna do is we already have our water preheating here. We're gonna let it get up to about 120 degrees Fahrenheit. You always want to preheat the water for your mocha pots. If you use standard cold tap water on these, then you risk shocking the coffee that's in here, and you can lose out on a lot of excellent flavors out of your coffee. You can really end up sacrificing the quality of the drink you're going to be making. So while that's preheating, we're gonna go ahead and disassemble our mocha pot. The thing I love about these is they're simple. There are 3 chambers to the entire mocha pot. We have our top chamber. This is where the coffee comes out and brews into. The magic happens in 2 places. First and foremost, we have our water chamber. This is where we're going to put our preheated water. You're going to notice this valve out here. This is a steam valve to release pressure. Outside of that, we have our coffee basket. This is where the ground coffee actually goes in. One of the great things is you'll see these little holes here. These are going to increase pressure back on the water, the steam that's coming out of it and forcing through the coffee. So one, you're going to be saturating your coffee to really extract as much flavor and caffeine out of that coffee there. Otherwise, you just end up with some lightly brown water. You want a nice dark coffee out of this. And then the other aspect, this is what makes a mocha pot great, is it can make espresso-like and very strong coffee, is there's a secondary filtering system in the bottom of these, balanced by these rubber gaskets are surrounding it. But there's this filter basket here, and there's another one inside of it that all end up out the spout here. So what you're doing is you're essentially triple filtering the steam and the water that comes out of here. You might be able to produce a crema with a mocha pot, but it's never going to be true espresso. Those who know me know I hate not giving measurements on anything. What you're actually going to do is you're just going to pour it just below the valve. Don't know how much water that is. I don't want to ruin the experience by over implementing science or measurements into this. The thing that's great about mocha pots is it is an experience. We're gonna pour that water in there. You might be able to see some steam coming off of it. It's not super hot. We're really just trying to warm the basket here. With the mocha pot, you never tamp your coffee. Anybody who tells you to tamp your coffee, there are going to be 2 cultures that immediately despise you. The Italians and anybody from Latin America. You tamp your espresso in a mocha pot, then you're just trying to increase pressure and you're trying to make a fun little boom boom in your house. So what we're gonna do is we're just gonna try and really fill up this basket. That's pretty good, not bad. It's like a flower, like a nice little coffee flower. Sweet little coffee daisy. Leave that scoop in there. And now what we do is we use our finger to level out the bed. We're not going to tamp, we're just going to level the bed out. You can drop that right into our water chamber. You just need to heat your water. You don't want to go with cold or room temperature water. Like I said, you don't want to shock your coffee. I'm just going to reassemble this guy and make sure it's tight. And there we go. We're going to open up the top here to about a medium heat, medium low on this induction range. I'm just going to let him sit there. We're going to grab some brown sugar. There are two ways to make the espuma, which is what we're making right now. It's basically makeshift crema on a coffee, but it's very sweet. You can either use just standard white granulated sugar. The issue, though, is that if you don't use brown sugar, I mean, one, it's brown because of the molasses in there. We want that molasses. It's going to bring out the nutty flavors of the Café Bustelo here. And we want to make sure we're accentuating that. We want to make sure that we are heightening that aspect of things. We want this coffee to balance itself out rather than have contrasting tastes to it. So with the sizes of the mocha pot we have, and because we're only serving 2 people and not like 7, we're going to go ahead and do 2 tablespoons of brown sugar. This is the one time I'm measuring, I promise. This is a half tablespoon, so we're going to get 4 of these guys in here. A whisk is going to help break up the clumps of the brown sugar using the espresso to moisturize them and make our awesome little paste that we're really shooting for here. And it cuts the time down significantly, and you still get a great flavor. You're not sacrificing anything. Work smarter, not harder. So this spout right up here, we're going to be seeing coffee coming out of there. We're waiting for the first few drops of that espresso to come through. The reason for that is that's going to be the most concentrated of the coffee that comes out of your mocha pot because it's the most immediate after the steam has really hit everything. We want to use that to make our espuma, so we're really balancing out the strength, the flavor of the coffee with the brown sugar we've got going on over here. Really just to make a great tasting coffee. So we can see the espresso is starting to brew a little bit. We're just going to take a couple of drops, maybe a little bit more. We're going to stick this guy right back on there, let it finish out, turn it to a nice low. You can even see little layers of crema in there. I'm going to go ahead and move it off of the heat so we don't burn it. If you're interested, that's just how you make a plain old mocha pot. We're not satisfied with a plain mocha pot. While this would taste amazing, that's not what we're after. We can see here we're already starting to get that nice drippy texture. There's still some clumps of brown sugar in there though. We're going to work to break those up. We're going to try and preserve as much of that espuma as possible. That is the one reason a spoon is beneficial, is because it's much easier to scrape the espuma off of it. The whisk is a little rougher. We're going to lose some of it, but that's fine. We don't like anything overly sweet because we want to slowly incorporate the espresso into the espuma. But we can already see that like faux crema sitting on top in the espuma. I'm just going to give it a nice slow stir. Make sure we don't have anything sticking to the bottom. This is very much like a Cuban version of like a Turkish coffee. It's a labor of love. It's something you make for the people you really care about. And it also just tastes amazing. I mean, you're pretty much drinking a shot of espresso with sugar in it. We don't want to overdo it though, because then we sacrifice the espuma. What we're going to do here is we're going to pour that in. You want to preserve some of that espuma. Nutty, earthy, sweet, very sweet. Cheers. You can't beat that. You can't beat it. Gotta go in for a second.